We are the world's people, different yet we're the same. We believe in a dream, praying for peace and healing. I know we can start again. We believe in a dream. So if you ever feel love is fading, together like the stars in the sky, we can sing, we can shine. When you hear our voices call, you won't be lonely anymore. Oh, a million voices. Your heart is like a beating drum, burning brighter than the sun. Oh, a million voices. Now as the world is listening from cities and satellites, we believe in a dream. If you ever feel love is fading, together like the stars in the sky, we can sing, we can shine. When you hear our voices call, you won't be lonely anymore. Oh, a million voices. Your heart is like a beating drum, burning brighter than the sun. Oh, a million voices. When I look around at these faces, I can see the stars in the sky. We will sing, we will shine. When you hear our voices call, you won't be lonely anymore. Oh, a million voices singing out, oh, singing out, oh, singing out. A million voices singing out, oh, singing out, oh, singing out. A million voices, a million voices.
Kearns. Thank you so much, Shannon, Andrew, Jonathan, and Matt. Thank you so much. That song, A Million Voices, was the Russian entry to the 2015 Eurovision competition that was held just a couple of weeks ago. It came in second place. And when I heard that song, thanks to my niece Sadie Weldis, when I heard that song watching Eurovision, I knew that somewhere, someday, we were going to do that. And Shannon has nailed it through the roof and out of the ballpark. Yes, she was, what a beautiful opportunity for us to come together, in that we are the world moment, right? It's so easy in our spiritual tradition, in our faith path, to focus on ourselves. It's an important and powerful place to start. We have to heal our own lives. We have to heal our own sense of separation from life, from the divine, from each other. We have to find a way to stop being victims in our own lives and really discover our own sense of responsibility and our connection to the whole. And we spend a lot of time on that. And it's powerful and important work. But it's not enough. There's a place we go beyond that. And that is the place where we recognize that we are part of this whole thing not only of the one divine power and presence, but we're part of the human race. And we are part of life expressing itself in, through, and as all creation. And it's not enough just to heal our own lives. There comes a point and a place where we recognize that we have to participate in the raising of consciousness, in the lifting of humanity as a whole. That healing ourselves it's impossible to heal the whole, to heal humanity without healing ourselves. But it is impossible to heal ourselves fully and completely without participating in the healing of the things, the ills that we see in the world. So, Humanity Rising is our topic for today. As we move into this conversation, will the real us stand up? The real us, meaning the real us as individuals, the real us as the CSLDallas community, the real us as the United States. This conversation has been birthed actually in a conversation Tracy and I had probably a year and a half ago. As many of you know, we did a diversity series here this past year, had some just extraordinary moments. We opened our sanctuary in moments of great trouble, just as we did in 2011. We opened our sanctuary for the Trayvon Martin verdict. It's a Zimmerman verdict. We opened our sanctuary again for the Ferguson situation, and just such profound and extraordinary opportunities. And this conversation led to deeper conversations. And Tracy and Bert Hedden and myself and Reverend Karen, we've been having these conversations. What's ours to do? Because at some point, as I said, it's not enough just to heal our own individual lives. There's actually something larger that we're called to. What's ours to do? And so we've been having these conversations, and basically what we'd like to do is invite you into it. We'd like you to invite you in to the conversation and to the possibility. You see, we're constantly confronted. I know that I am. I'm constantly confronted with those things that push against my sensibility. They push against my spiritual belief. They push against my sense of what's right. And when I'm pushed like that, my tendency, I think, like all of us, is to push back. Because I want it to be different. I think it's wrong. And I want something to be changed. And what happens when we push? You betcha. And so as I'm pushed and I push back, the push happens again. And I push back, and the push happens again, and I push back. And we've seen that in the polarization of our nation. We've seen that push and how that push has pushed us further and further and further apart in some ways and places. And our spirituality teaches us something different. Our spirituality teaches us that at some place I have to be responsible for my response. And that when I feel that push, I have in that moment an opportunity. I can push back, or I can be pulled by something larger. I can be pulled by something deeper, and I can be pulled into something beyond just my own emotional response, my triggered reaction, my need to make wrong and condemn. Ernest Holmes, in the Sermon by the Sea, he says this: "Find me one person who is for something and against nothing." Easy to say, hard to do. How do we stand for things? Stand for peace and justice and equality and a world that truly works for everyone. How do we stand for that, be pulled by that vision, and not allow ourselves to be pushed into reaction? Actually, the whole quote is, "Find me one person who is for something and against nothing, who is redeemed enough not to condemn others out of the burden of his own soul." Yeah. Not to condemn, make wrong, judge out of my own burden, my own triggered reaction, but to stand for something, to stand for a vision, to stand for a new idea. We're moving into our new month with a new book. We have a new topic and a new book, and we're using this wonderful book by Marianne Williamson. This is the second edition of Healing the Soul of America, reclaiming our voices as spiritual citizens. You see, we want CSLDallas to be part of that million voices. We want to be a part of that. We don't want to be left behind. Marianne Williamson says this: a new spirituality-based social activism is beginning to assert itself. It stems not from hating what is wrong and trying to fight it, but from loving what could be and making the commitment to bring it forth. Do you see, that's the vision that pulls, as opposed to hating what's wrong or hating the people who are involved in what's wrong. And we have lots and lots of opportunities to do that, don't we? We see the racial tensions. We see the religious tensions with the creation of cartoons around Muhammad. We see all kinds of polarizations where we can choose sides. Or we can be about that which could be and stand in the commitment to bring it forth. It's sometimes challenging to know where our spirituality leads us when we are taught consciousness is cause. And we should pray, do our spiritual mind treatments, hold the vision. And we seek not to offend or be engaged in a way that seems inappropriate, and sometimes we can hold back. Ernest Holmes says this: it's quite a burden lifted when we realize that we do not have to move the world. It is going to move anyway. This realization does not lessen our duty or our social obligation. It clarifies it. It enables us to do joyously and free from morbidity that which we should do in the social state. Do you see, it's not about not acting in the world. It's about how we act in the world. It's about how we decide to move and engage and participate in humanity rising.
Pivotal moment for me was during the 3 years of ministerial school. We had approximately 20 ministerial students at the campus in Santa Rosa, California, and a topic came up that actually, quote, blew up the campus. And there was reaction. Some of us reacted from it. Some of us pushed up against each other, and we kept pushing and pushing backwards and forwards against one another, and yet we were willing to stay in the conversations. Some of the conversations that we've had here and some of the conversations that we will have here. And because the 20 or so of us were willing to stay in the conversations, my whole life was greatly impacted and changed forever in the person that I am. Our movement was changed quite dramatically. There's now more diversity in the speakers and the singers and everything that happens at our annual conventions, because some people were willing to speak up, and more than that, more of us were willing not to back off and to just sort of spiritually code it like, but we're all one. And we stood in those conversations. And after 3 years of that, what I can tell you is the 20 of us are much closer to one another. I'm certainly much more aware of what people feel, act, and how I can impact in my words. And I feel more enlightened because I was willing to participate in those conversations. And that's why this topic is very important to me in this community. The multitude of topics. That's what's occurring in our local community of Dallas and the community called this country. So I invite you into these conversations.
And so this idea of humanity arising is so juicy, so delicious, and so tough. Mm-hmm. It's all of that. And I can't think of two better songs to lead us into this conversation than us singing together, Souls on Fire. Like our souls are on fire to be the expression of the divine in our interactions with one another, and now out into the world. And the song that Shannon sang, most of us were hearing it today for the very first time, but I don't think there is any better song than to remind us that as we work individually and then as we commit collectively to be a part of the rising up of the best of humanity, yes. The best of humanity, that we become a part of the million voices. And I'm just so excited about that for myself, and knowing that every one of you in this room and everyone who watches this video and everyone who is connected to our community in any way this month is going to have the opportunity to also be part of those million voices rising humanity.
Yeah. Because we want to contribute to consciousness, right? We want to contribute to the collective consciousness. We know that when we raise our own consciousness, our life is changed and impacted forever. When we see newly, when we have a new perspective and a new understanding, everything changes in our own personal lives. And when we are willing to be pulled by a vision, a positive vision about what's possible for us, you have that story, you yourself. I know how many of you have said to me, because of this, my life is transformed. Because of this philosophy, because of this community, my life is transformed. And you see, I believe that Science of Mind and Centers for Spiritual Living and CSLDallas, we are uniquely positioned with our faith and with our willingness to walk in it, to be the container in which that rising consciousness can be furthered, can be nurtured, can be brought out into the world in a new and different way, without the sense of wrongness, without the condemnation and judgment, but to really stand for that vision that we share, that we have about not only our own transformed lives, but the possibility that there is when collective consciousness has transformed. And we have seen collective consciousness transform in the past. And we have witnessed it. We've witnessed it in the world. We've witnessed it in this country, in our history. We've witnessed it in lots of places. And it takes for people to stand for that new consciousness, for that new awareness. And we have a way of standing in our faith, on our faith, that I think allows us to create a container that is so amazing that we can truly be a part of what shifts collective consciousness.
And so, like many of you, I've had a lot of different experiences on my journey to this particular faith, philosophy, and way of life. And one of the reasons that I now call this my spiritual home, this community and this philosophy, is one, because we truly believe all paths lead to God. But even more than that, we are part of the Centers for Spiritual Living, not the Centers for Spiritual Thinking, not the Centers for Spiritual Wishing, but we are the Centers for Spiritual Living. And that calls to me, and I hope it calls to you, to be about action, to be about doing things that represent the best of who we are. So Marianne Williamson wrote, she was talking about in this particular part of the book that she had given a talk, and the topic of abortion came up, and there was a lot of tension in the room. And she writes, we falsely believe as spiritual people that we don't have to delve into issues like that. Such a choice is not transcendence, but denial, healing nothing and no one. So transcendence is different from denial. Transcendence doesn't mean, I've meditated for an hour a day, and so I have transcended these problems of the world, and I can just, somebody else will deal with that, or they don't really exist. I mean, some of us have said that at different points in our life. Oh, that's not real. Really, the spiritual life is real. And so we deny. We actually are in denial of what is going on in the world. And one of the reasons that I love this book is because Marianne Williamson, if you read it along with us, she will challenge you to move beyond denial. She will challenge you to actually look for the problems, to look for the problems. She said, we do not look away from the problems of the world, for that is negative denial. Rather, we look toward them and pray to be agents of change.
Yes.
Agents of change. Like, isn't that cool? It gives us a whole different place to stand. And Ernest Holmes says there's nothing to heal, only truth to reveal. So it's not that we're trying to heal racism or heal homophobia or heal poverty or heal. What we're really trying to do is we're choosing in our actions, our words, and our involvement to reveal the truth that there is enough. Reveal the truth that love is always present. Reveal that which is actually the spiritual truth. Marianne Williamson also says, a path of love takes conscious effort. Many Americans have the unfortunate habit of waking up every morning and surrendering their lives to fear. Newspapers, radio, or TV news, caffeine, or nicotine hook us into the anxiety-ridden miasma we call contemporary culture before we're even out the door in the morning.
One of the reasons why we have just completed our media fast, right? To really be a part of this.
Right. And so it's like, wow, if that's true, it's easy to build an argument about how good things are in America. It's just as easy to build an argument about how bad things are in America. And that's because both are true. So what will happen as you are reading the book or as you're hearing the talks this month or engaging on Wednesday nights is that you get to engage in revealing the truth of what is good and what is possible. Now, I will warn you, if you're reading the book, there may be points where you're like, oh, well, I don't really think that's such a big issue. Or you may say, that is such a huge issue, and I think Marianne is all wrong in how she's suggesting we approach it. That's okay. We didn't choose the book so that you would subscribe to the Marianne Williamson answer to every situation that we face in the world. We chose the book because she frames the conversation saying, if you are a spiritual person, how do you bring that forward? And you may decide that what she's highlighting as one of many issues is not your issue, is not your concern. It may not be your place to contribute in the world. It may not be your place to be an agent of change, and that's okay. But don't close the book.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, so what is my opportunity to be the love and to be an agent of change?
And when we're being an agent of change, right, we're being about the shift in consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the things I love that she brings out in the book is that this whole notion of love We see that there are problems in the world, but we believe in a universal force that, when activated by the human heart, has the power to make all things right. Such is the divine authority of love to renew the heart, renew the nations, and ultimately renew the world. And many of you, I shared last year, I had a personal experience last fall where I absolutely know the power of love. It changed everything and everyone around me. So we have this power to make things right, and that's what we're talking about this month, to be that power.
Sometimes we're confused about this love, I think, that we teach in our spirituality. We think I'm going to love everybody, which translates into I'm going to accept everybody, which translates into I'm not going to say something about your behavior for fear of offending you. I can actually be so loving and so accepting of everything that I become a doormat. And as Tracy pointed out, I can so love the being that you are that I go into denial about the human condition, the human experience. And so this love that we're talking about, it is a very profoundly active thing. Actually, when we read about it, you'll read about it in Marianne Williamson, we read about it in a lot of different places. And the term is a fierce love. It's a fierce love. It's a love that's so willing to stand in the crucible, in the fire of discomfort, in the fire of the willingness to say, from this place I won't be moved. I can see the truth. I'm going to keep speaking the truth in the room. I'm not going to make you wrong for it, but I'm not going to make this okay. Do you see, that's what it means to be an agent of change. And to be willing to do that from a place of love is a profoundly active and present and powerful way to be in the world. We are not taught how to be that love.
But truly, if we want to be in that love, an example of that love, and show that we are lovers of humanity and what we can be, this quote just reminds us. The lover of humanity is an agent of awakening in a world where there is a collective urge to sleep. Let me be the first to tell you that the alarm clock is ringing. The time for sleeping is done.
Right.
Individually and collectively. And we have so many ways within our own faith philosophy and way of life called science of mind that remind us of this.
So you were handed something when you walked in, and on one side of the paper is the Centers for Spiritual Living Global Vision.
Just click it on.
And when our two organizations decided to come together, which made perfect sense, since we are about oneness, there was a lot of time spent in creating a vision, a global vision, that all of us that are learning about and practicing about and living about science mind, that what is this vision that we can collectively choose to hold, this global vision. So Tracy and Peter and I sort of are bringing our, quote, favorite ones forward, because we can't bring them all forward, but you have them all with you. And so the first one we collectively bring forward in that we envision all people, all beings, and all life as expressions of God. For as we do that, that is where we're moving from, that everything in life is an expression of God. I bring forward one, we envision humanity awaking to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought. A world where each and every person discovers his or her own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. We envision a world where each and every person has enough food, a home, and a sense of belonging. A world of peace and harmony, enfranchisement, and justice.
Yes.
And I just want you to listen to this one. Don't try to find it on the page quite yet. Just listen and take it in. We see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with his or her highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other. A world in which individually and collectively we are called to a higher state of consciousness and a higher state of action. Take a breath. And I love this. I love the whole global vision. I love this particular one for a couple of reasons. One, it reminds us that each one of us are in unity with God. And so often when we talk about oneness and all of this agape love and loving everyone, we say, oh, because we're all one. But the reality is each one of us is in unity with Spirit, with God, with this higher power. And because of that, we are all connected. But we are not, each one of us, all the same.
Right. That's right.
And in these conversations, that's something that often gets confused. We say, oh, we have oneness. We don't have to talk about the issues or the ways that we're different. No. We have oneness with the divine, with our Creator, with Spirit. And if I believe that's true for you and you and you and you and you and everyone in here, then I am connected to you, and we are all then part of this oneness. That is what we are called to do, pulled by this vision to do and the ways to behave with one another as we move forward.
And I so want to underscore that oneness doesn't mean sameness. Actually, oneness means diversity. Oneness means multiplicity. Just look at the flowers in the fields, the number of trees. Spirit didn't say, oh, I'm one, so we'll have oak trees. Spirit said, there's oneness, so we'll have as many trees as it takes to represent the infinite possibility of treeness. Do you see? That's called multiplicity. Spirit said, I'm one, there's oneness, so let's have as many individual human beings as we possibly can to express the infinite nature of humanity. So we're all different in that oneness. I think this is a maturing of our spiritual faith walk. This is a maturing that's happening in our Centers for Spiritual Living overall and in our understanding of our own philosophy. We're a pretty young philosophy, right? Barely 100 years old, not even. And this is a maturing process that we are going through. But it speaks again to me about how profoundly, uniquely positioned science of mind is to make an extraordinary difference in this conversation. That is a mature paradox to hold. When I can celebrate your difference while embracing our oneness. The piece of the Global Heart Vision that I want to pull out, because I am a lover of paradox, and I understand truly that every deep spiritual, really deep spiritual maturing and understanding resolves itself in a paradox. My favorite one is we envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors. providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness. Do you see, I think it's one of the unnecessary polarizations that has happened in our country, the polarization between personal responsibility and social conscience. To my way of thinking, these are two sides of the same coin. I want to be personally responsible for my own life, and I want to be personally responsible for my contribution to the raising of consciousness and to the way in which life is unfolded and the way in which it behaves and acts in the world. I've said this before, some of you haven't heard it in a while, and you know I have a secret mission about all of you. I have a secret mission about all of you, and it's not just that you will transform your own life. My secret mission is that you are infected with spiritual faith, vision, and belief, and that you will go out into the world as spiritual guerrillas, spiritual warriors, as you so will, and you will infect those around you with the spiritual meme.
Gorillas spelled Guerrillas.
Yes, like guerrilla warfare, like sneaking around. Okay, thank you.
Just being sure.
Infiltrating. Shall we just be really clear? Infiltrating the structures that we find ourselves in at every level. Infiltrating them with this vision, with this way of understanding that consciousness is cause, and that when we collectively transform consciousness, the way in which we engage at every level changes. I would love for members of this community to sit on the education board of the state of Texas, to be CEOs and in the boardrooms of the Fortune 500 and 150 Fortune 50 companies that are coming here to Dallas because of the kind of city that we live in. I'd like for us to be in the world engaged in that way, not against anything, but for a profoundly sustainable way of living together. Living together in our communities, living together in our workplaces, living together in our culture. Do you see? And if I only take personal responsibility for my own life, it's not enough. I actually have to take responsibility for how I am contributing, how I am participating, and what it is that I'm bringing when I step out of my own life and into the world. That's the vision that pulls for me.
And by doing that, the more that each of us come here, work on ourselves individually, really get that we can use these teachings to create that powerful force and to put ourselves into the world and to speak up, to not back down, to bring our faith forward, not hide it, but actually lead with it, then we are truly helping to bring forward the one that ends this global vision, and that's we see a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. And to not stop until that is held. How many of us, before we take our last breath, would love to see a world that works for everyone? No one left out.
Yeah. So we want to be change agents in the world, not just in our own lives. And this has been fermenting, as you heard. This has been fermenting, this conversation. And we have continued to find and look for ways in which we can further it as a community. So Reverend Karen had the TED Talk this last weekend on Friday, which I heard was truly wonderful. There'll be another one in July that will continue the conversation. In September, on September 12th, CSL has a World Day of Service. Our national organization, our international organization, Centers for Spiritual Living, has a World Day of Service. And on that particular day, we've chosen to have as the World Day of Service a program called Listening from Love. And it is specifically created by the Diversity Commission and sponsored by the Diversity Commission from Centers for Spiritual Living. And it is an opportunity for us to listen from love in the conversation about race, but also beyond that, any conversations that are about isms and divisions, those things that separate us. Now, we're bringing this to our community in September because the vision and the goal is that we as a community will start bringing this into Dallas in 2016. But we can't do the work in Dallas if we haven't done the work ourselves. And we can't bring that deep sense and profound sense of a place to stand and what we are standing for if we don't collectively know what that is. So you're going to hear more about this on September 12th. We're making a personal invitation. We'd like to have 100 CSLDallas people at that event. We're inviting all the other CSLs in Dallas to be a part of it, the ministers and practitioners to participate, the communities to participate, so that we become the leaven that will be seeded into the bread of our community, the larger community around us, that we can begin to make this container, create this space in which this conversation can happen from a profoundly perhaps different place than it's happened in the past. Because I so deeply believe that consciousness is cause. And we understand that. We know how to do that. We've learned how to do it in our own lives. That's the gift that we have to give to the world. Do you see? That's the gift. Not just our own personal changed lives, but because we've learned how to do transformation. We've learned how to do the hard work of transforming ourselves, looking at ourselves, being honest with our own triggers, our own false beliefs. We know how to do this. And we have the opportunity or the possibility of bringing that kind of change agency into the world if we're willing to take it up.
Yes, and I too want to invite you all. I expect you all actually to be there on September 12th. So go ahead and put it on your calendar now, because again, I've personally been not only bared witness, but I have participated in these kind of conversations. And the person that thinks they don't need to participate in the conversation is the one that had the greatest aha, oh my God, I didn't know. And I was able to broaden my understanding of this concept of, yes, we are all one, and yet we are all different. And so I truly invite you to invest your time for the sake not only of ourselves, but our community, because of what we want to do in 2016. We are going to step up to the table, and people are going to know that this philosophy is a way in which we can help heal the isms in this country. And what Ernest Holmes, yes, you can applaud that. And what Ernest Holmes said in the Sermon by the Sea that's not on your paper, that I wanted to bring forward is, you find me 1,000 people in the world. Imagine, there's 6+ billion of us, but find me 1,000 people in the world who know what science of mind is, and use it, and live it as it is. And I'll myself live to see a new world, a new heaven, and a new earth here. There is a cosmic power wrapped up in a cosmic consciousness and purpose that is equal to the vision which releases it. We have the vision. We have the global vision. And as we know what science of mind is, and we know how to use it, and most importantly, we actually get off our tush and live it before we breathe our last breath, we will get to savor this world that works for everyone. So it is.
Let us pray. There is only one life. That life is God's life. God's life is a life of love and beauty, joy and peace, harmony, balance, wholeness, prosperity. That life, God's life, is perfect. And in this moment, I know that God's life, that perfect life, is my life too. It is the life of all creation. It is the life of every person in this room, every person within the sound of my voice. It is the life into which each of us has been born, and it is the life that we choose to live. So in this very moment, what I know is absolutely true is that each one of us is part of humanity rising to reveal the truth of that love, the truth of that peace, the truth of that harmony, balance, wholeness, prosperity. That is the perfect life. That is our life now. That is the life that I set the intention for happening in my personal experience, in the experience of CSLDallas, in the experience of the city of Dallas, the state of Texas, the nation, and the world. Now, I refuse to be distracted by anything that doesn't look like this wholeness, this peace, this joy, this love. I refuse to be distracted or be confused and think that what's happening in McKinney, Texas is real, or what's happening in Ferguson is real, or what's happening in the Supreme Court is the reality of life. That all of these issues, all of these challenges to the human mind have an answer in spirit. That there is no problem, there is no challenge in the circle of God that does not already have a solution. This is what I know for absolute sure. And so I am grateful to be a part of a community that knows this truth as well. A community that says, I will stand, we will stand for the rising of humanity. I'm so grateful for knowing that the power and the presence of the divine stands with each one of us, expresses in us, as us, and through us. Now is the time. Take a breath. Breathing out anything that is out of alignment with this truth, I invite you to join me in knowing, and living this Christ consciousness in action. So please, if you are ready to answer the alarm, if you are ready to stand up, and if you are ready to be the example in the world, then I invite you to join me in affirming this truth, in accepting this truth, and in anchoring this prayer, this very moment, with the words we say together. And so it is.